Hello! So today I'm going to be talking about the book Clara and the Sun by the author Kazuo Ishiguro. If you're not familiar with Kazuo Ishiguro, he is a British author. He's originally from Japan but moved to England at a young age, and he's probably best known for two novels, Never Let Me Go and The Remains of the Day. These are actually the two novels prior to Clara and the Sun that I had read by him. And I'm a huge fan of both of those books. They're both absolutely beautiful. Never Let Me Go is one of my all-time favorite books, and it's one of the most moving things that I have ever read. So I was really looking forward to this novel and really excited to see what he's working on now. So Clara and the Sun is told from the point of view of an AI machine. In the book, it's called an AF because it's like an artificial friend. She is programmed to be a friend and a companion to a child. So Clara is our main character here. She is the AF, and she's kind of unique compared to other AI machines in that she's very perceptive and very observant of what's going on and constantly trying to sort of piece things together and make sense of human behavior. So Clara ends up being picked by a young woman, she's like a 14-year-old named Josie, who has some problems, some health problems going on. And so Clara is very devoted to Josie, but she comes to find out at Josie's household there are a lot of issues and a lot of sort of weird, creepy things happening underneath the surface of this family dynamic. I will say this book is a little bit light on plot. They're sort of similar to Never Let Me Go. It's like sort of a series of scenes more so than one streamlined plot. I think that's kind of Kazuo Ishiguro's style. So if you're familiar with that, then you probably won't be too thrown off. But there's not really like one clear plot that you could outline. It's more just sort of following Clara's experience in this household and the dynamic with Josie's family. So I can't get too much into the actual plot, but that's kind of the basics of what this book is about. So if you are familiar with some of Kazuo Ishiguro's other works, you probably know that he's a brilliant writer, and he's sort of a master of subtlety and of gradually revealing information to the reader that makes everything that you previously read even more heartbreaking and even more moving. I would say Never Let Me Go is like the prime example of that. But he uses similar tactics in this novel. So it's all from the point of view of Clara, and she has this very limited perspective on humans and human emotion. And that sounds like it might make it like less emotional and less moving, but it doesn't. It really, like, the way that he writes this book is so brilliant that it's heartbreaking to see things from Clara's point of view and the things that she doesn't quite understand and is really trying to understand. And the way that he makes you feel for Clara, even though she is like a robot, is so, like, no other author I don't think could pull something off like this. So it is absolutely beautifully written. There are a lot of passages about the sun. Clara is like a solar powered robot, and because of that, she kind of has this relationship with the sun where she views it as like a god, and she's almost praying to the sun, thinking that it's all powerful and can heal people and save the world, basically. And it's so powerful to see the scenes of like this robot praying to the sun. It's heartbreaking. I know it doesn't sound like it would be, but it really is, because his writing is so amazing. So this novel is really moving. It's really beautiful. Thematically, it has a lot of interesting concepts here. There's a lot about what makes people human, what's the difference between humans and robots, essentially, and what makes human lives valuable. And we're also in this kind of futuristic world where there's some vague things that have changed. So like, people can be lifted, which I guess is genetically altering people to make them smarter or better in some way. So there's all these kind of different ideas that are like floated out there. I will say this book doesn't necessarily address any of these concepts in a really concrete way. So if you are really interested in like AI, robots, futuristic stuff, this might not be the book that's going to give you like actual concrete information on that or make it seem really like realistic or go into the technical side of anything. It's really more sort of allegorical and abstract. So definitely be aware of that, just depending on what you're looking for. So ultimately, I do highly recommend KLARA and the Sun. If you are a writer or you're looking to become a writer or anything like that, I would highly recommend reading this book because I think writers can learn a lot from books like these, and it's essentially like a masterclass in telling a story from a unique perspective. So I would highly recommend it. Like I said earlier, it is a little bit light on plot and it doesn't have the traditional structure that you might expect for a book like this. And it is also a little bit light when it comes to like realistic technical aspects that are going to ground the reader to this futuristic landscape. You know, it is more conceptual in that regard, and it doesn't contain a lot of like technical information about robots or AI or anything that makes it seem particularly realistic. So, you know, that's another thing to be aware of, just so that you know what you're looking for when you go to read this book. But with all that said, I highly recommend this book. It's incredibly moving. It's beautifully written. It's unique. It's really like nothing that I've ever read before. And it really made me think. So for all those reasons, I have to give this book an 8 out of 10. It's really beautiful, and this author is just so brilliant and such an important writer. And I am just so happy that he's still writing books. So, yep, that is my review.